All right. Gray green type thing. I don't know. Okay. Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me? Let's see how we're going to do this. So welcome. Welcome. Today we are making, welcome back. This is part of a series where I'm going to be making some of the circuit boards that I need to make for some of my art pieces. And I figured, because of COVID and everything, can't really go see people or see art. I feel like the art world has really kind of come to a standstill as far as like the traditional sense of, galleries and sculptors and things like that. So this is sort of a way of maybe doing sort of more impersonal like studio visit type thing. But this is sort of peeling behind the curtain of like the literal building that goes into my own artwork. So I'm doing this series where I'm building some of the circuit boards that are sort of the modular components that make up my bigger circuit board collages. And on the Instagram Live, you can see there's one right behind me. There's a couple up on the wall as well. But yeah, so we've done a couple of these so far. We've done VCOs, oscillators, filters. We did a clock divider a couple weeks ago, we did a clock divider. We did an amplifier, voltage control amplifier. We did some passive components last week. So today we're doing an envelope generator. Also, for those of you on Instagram Live, I'm also doing this on Twitch. There's sort of like a chat that I'm trying to pay a little bit more attention to on Twitch. I'm still sort of exploring that platform a little bit more. I have another camera view on Twitch as well as the Instagram Live feed. So if you're interested in checking that out, I have a link to that in my Instagram bio, but I'm going to get into this now. So also let me know in the Twitch if you can't hear me. I'm using a microphone, so hopefully you can pick up everything I'm saying. But yeah, so today we're doing envelope generators. And this is the envelope generator. This is what the board looks like. Sort of inspired by I don't know. I think it looks kind of like vampiric, kind of like some sort of character coming out of a cloak. But regardless, it's still like a functional object. And so this is 2 envelope generators in it. And there's many different types of envelope generators, but this is a very, very simple one. I have some more complicated ones on my modular unit that's behind me. But this is the sort of bare bones one that I like to use a lot when I'm, making a lot of them at once. So what does it do? So an envelope generator has nothing to do with the Postal Service, just to get that out of the way. Essentially what they do is they're sort of a way for us to become like more expressive with our automated signals. So if you think of, a gate signal is essentially just like a square wave, right? And so if we take that signal and we feed it into a filter, what we're going to get is like an open, close, open, close, open, close. And it's going to feel sort of like robotic. It's going to be sort of like bop, boop, bop, boop, and it will just be like on, off, right? But if we feed it into an envelope generator, what we can do is we can start to shape that wave. So envelope generators, traditionally, more complicated ones, have like 4 elements. They have attack, sustain, ADSR, attack, decay, sustain, release. And that kind of looks something like this. Attack, decay, sustain, release. I just realized everything's mirrored. I have a new Twitch setup this time where I've realized that the overhead camera kind of looks weird. Actually, let me see if I can real quick flip that as well. Can I also flip it this way? Oh, sweet. Yes, I can. That's cool. Yeah, cool platform. But so, yeah, attack, decay, sustain, release. Normally those are the 4 parameters. And if you think about it, the way that would work is like, if we fed something in, attack is the initial time it takes to reach the peak voltage, Decay is it sort of coming down and stabilizing. So maybe attack kind of has a little bit higher of a pulse and it stabilizes. Sustain is then how long it holds. And then release is sort of how long it takes for the signal to flow out. So if you think about this, like if it was controlling like a keyboard or something, if you've ever played with like a sophisticated keyboard that has these sort of envelope controls, if you have the attack and the decay and the sustain and release turned like all the way down, basically as soon as you press that button, you're going to hear a sound. And then, can I turn the camera a bit down? Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. I'm still figuring out my setup a little bit. Oh. Reconnecting. There we go. Okay, there we go. Is that better? I can see if I can. Yeah, I've also got this on, I can pull this out a little bit, but I've also got this on Twitch if you want to check that out. I have like an overhead for that. I can also hold this up every once in a while. So we're just talking about envelopes. But yeah, so this is the sort of like, if you had your attack all the way down, your decay, your sustain, and your release, as soon as you press that key, you're going to hear a sound, and as soon as you let it go, the sound is going to be gone. And that's sort of like, you know, our gated signal. That's sort of like up, in, out, gone. If we turn all them sort of down or up, or, you know, you increase the attack, you increase the release, then as soon as I press that button, if I increase the attack, as soon as I press that button, it's going to kind of go like, ooh, and it's going to kind of be a gradual increase to it. And then if I have the release turned all the way up, as soon as I release the release, it'll sort of take a second to sort of fade out. So it becomes a more like expressive way of sort of automating your signals, or shaping your signals, I think is a better way. So this is the sort of like standard one, attack, decay, sustain, release, but we're using a very, very simple version, which is just an AR. It's just attack and release. So what ours looks like is more like this, attack, release, where attack is our initial, the amount of time it takes to reach our peak voltage, and release is the amount of time it takes to go back to no voltage, or whatever the base voltage was. And yeah, that's essentially like what we're going to be getting out of this sort of thing, is just like being able to sort of shape things a little bit more and get a little bit more. I mean, that does look like a triangle wave, but you know, when you start to shape the different types of waveforms, you can get a lot more out of it, because like, you know, it can sort of become a limited thing, and then like, you know, for holding it, this will sort of naturally sustain until it becomes released. So, you know, where sustain sort of, if you had a thing where you had sustain that didn't really exist, like in one of these circuits, like when you press it, it has the potential to sort of like fade out before you even release it. So there's all sorts of like different things that you can sort of do with this. But we're working with a very bare bones one, so I just wanted to sort of draw out this diagram to sort of explain how that works. It's just a sort of way of shaping our signals. Cool. So now we're going to just sort of hop in. I've had sort of a crazy week, so I haven't really prepped that much of this. I have like my resistors to the side, but other than that, I'm just going to sort of like grab my parts as I go. I did build 2 of these the other day for a piece, but so it's kind of fresh in my mind. But we're going to start off with resistors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And yeah, so this board has 2 envelope generators in it. So I just had like enough space on here that I thought I would fit 2. And that's nice. I feel like this one, or this sort of series of modular units, all sort of work in even numbers, which is convenient when, I don't know, just sort of like trying to plan out a system. You want to make sure you have enough envelopes for enough oscillators, for enough filters, or something like that. It's just sort of easier to plan when you know that, like, oh, I just need, this one has 2 sets of envelopes. This one has 4 sets of VCAs. This one has, you know, 1 filter or something. I guess 1 filter is not even, but you get the point. But yeah, because it's just repeated, it's not a very complicated build. It's a pretty simple build, honestly. Very minimal components. It's also like, I feel like of all my circuits, this one is truly like the most analog. Like aside from like the operational amplifiers, which are the ICs on here, the little black caterpillars that you see on circuit boards, aside from those, which are just used for sort of converting the signal and dealing with feedback, aside from those, this is just like really core components, like just resistors and capacitors. What's cool about this one is that the size of the capacitor greatly affects the size of the envelope that you can make. So it's a like really, it's a pretty extreme example of the components sort of dictating the function and like the what you can get out of it. So now I've moved on to 100K resistors. Yeah, I've also got, if you're on the Instagram live, I've also got the schematic up on the Twitch, and I think I'm going to go through that at some point because it's a pretty cool schematic. It's very simple, and it's another way to just sort of talk about operational amplifiers, which you can never have too many of, and you can never know enough about because they're so versatile and confusing. They're very confusing. I feel like I've learned how they work 100 times and still don't know. All right, so there's that. Now we need 47Ks. 2, 3, 4 of these. Then we need 10Ks. I just need 2 of these, so I'm going to throw these in real quick, and then I don't really have to think about resistors anymore. Got our 10Ks. Resistors are, they come in the unit of ohms. And so when I say 10K, I mean, 10,000 ohms. And resistors are sort of, I've talked about resistors before, but they're really just like the very, very, very basic element of like circuits. Their purpose is really to, restrict the flow of electricity, and sort of, adjust like how easy and hard it is for it to move in certain directions, but also like, I don't know, they can be used for like a million things that I'm sure I don't even know, how it works, but one of the most useful things that I find resistors for is for like voltage dividers. That's like the super, super handy sort of thing. Voltage dividers. Also, I've moved on to capacitors now. Let's see, 10 NF. Now, capacitors are not in ohms, they're in farads. And so these ones that I have right now are 10 nanofarad. And there's picofarad, and there's farad, what, microfarad? Microfarad I think is UF. Yeah, and so this next capacitor that I'm putting in, on Twitch, it's capacitor, what is that, 3? And this one is essentially what's going to dictate how long our envelope is. So you can put in like, I think the recommended one was like 100 NF or something, or 100 UF, 100 NF. But I put in 1 UF, which is bigger. It's like 1,000 NF. And I do that just so that I can get a pretty nice long envelope kind of going. And I'll be able to demonstrate it. This one has some buttons on here that let me, I can press them and sort of manually trigger the outputs, and I have some LEDs that will sort of show us what the levels coming out are. Cool, now moving on to diodes. Sandsfish says, I'm on my 3rd time learning how op amps work. I still don't understand how the feedback loop doesn't just run away and spike the signal. The guts of it used and other input to keep it checking and equalize them. Yeah, I agree. I also don't really understand that. I think it's because I'm used to feedback with like microphones and speakers or something, where like the feedback or like guitar effects or something, where as soon as there's any feedback, it just becomes, like the high-pitched squeak that you hear, like when somebody gets too close to the microphone or to the amplifier with a microphone or something. And so I also agree. Like I don't understand totally how that works. How it can just sort of not run away with it and go nuts. I think it must have to do with just like the scale of the signal or the precision of it or something. I'm not really sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I saw a really incredible artwork online the other day. I don't remember who the artist was, but it was essentially that. It was like a microphone and a speaker, and they were both attached to like robotic arms. And so what they would do is there was a feedback loop of the microphone was basically coming out of the speaker, and the signal was being analyzed by some sort of computer. And so what it would do is it would move the robot arms that had these attached to them so that it would get the perfect amount of feedback and create like tones. And then if it got to be too much or some feedback from the space started to take over, like somebody would cough or something and that would spike the feedback, they would like manually readjust like super fast. I don't know, I thought that was great. And it was real small too. It was like a nice little piece, a good little robotic sculpture. I'll have to, I'm trying to remember what the name of that person was. I saw it in the Ars Electronica catalog. I was looking through. Yeah, I'll have to try and find it. It was cool. It was just like, it was really tiny and really simple. So right now I'm working on these diodes. Normally when I build circuits, I just pull out all the parts and then I bend them all manually, and then I just put them all in all at once. I find that kind of goes the fastest. But I'm hoping, right now I'm working on a series of 5 circuit board collages, which are sort of these bigger pieces that are behind me on the Instagram live feed. I'm working on 5 of them right now, and I'm very close to finishing up the series. And then, I'm hopefully going to do a little release with this platform that I share my art on, called Art Fair. Hopefully we're going to do that in March. So I'm kind of rushing to finish off those pieces right now. And then I think I'm going to take a break from circuit boards for a little bit. I think I'm going to try and focus a little bit more on like some of the conceptual work that I used to do, and the conceptual work that I am going to be doing at this residency that I have coming up this summer has to do a lot more with like nuclear culture and the way that nuclear culture sort of, I mean, I think there's a lot of overlap for sure. Like one of the things that led me from nuclear culture to circuit boards was this sort of like umbrella term that I've started to just sort of consider to be like technocraft. And to me, technocraft is like really anything that engages in, it's really like sort of the focus of the material in technology and like the materiality in technology and how that's sort of like an umbrella term that encompasses far more than we tend to imagine. And that's like, I got to that sort of like umbrella concept because with nuclear culture, I was sort of thinking of it as like, again, like a very similar thing, like this omnipresent, unspoken topic that, you know, nobody really talks about, the weapons that are stored in submarines that have, you know, the potential to set off the end of humanity, or, you know, it's just like these great big like ethical questions that we have to ask ourselves or something. But I think technocraft sort of involves that when you think about like the, you know, AI that have been in charge of nuclear codes, or like will be deciding the fate of us at some point. I don't know, like I think there's an overlap there. And I also like think that the systems themselves, like the massive systems, like when you think of factories or you think of power plants or things like that, these sort of technological architectural wonders, especially like fusion reactors. Like fusion reactors are these insane engineering architectural feats. And when you think about those things, you can think of like, I don't know, I think of instantly like the formal thing that pops into my brain is like repeating systems. And, you know, a lot of the, for example, like the screws that go into a lot of these machines, in the specific machines, they kind of tend to have to be like hand machined, each one of them, which is an insane like technocraft, like formal agency sort of thing. But like then the systems that have to exist outside of that these machines can be built inside of, you know, they exist in the same realm as like our hardware stores. I don't know if that's making any sense, but like what the point that I'm trying to make is like at a certain point, like the repetition of objects and like the systems that exist for repetition sort of start to become like kind of like a feedback loop in like technocraft or like in these greater concepts. So I think there's a connection there for sure. But I think I'm going to be focusing on some of that other work for a little bit and trying to write a little bit more and, I don't know, collect my thoughts. I feel like I've been kind of in this mode of just kind of like brute making for a little while. And I think there's something to that for sure, but it's hard to read the news and, you know, hear all these things about, I don't know, there's just so much crazy stuff going on in the world, and it's hard to separate it or it's hard to separate it and not feel any sort of remorse when I like come here and like work on my own sort of things. But yeah, I don't know, kind of a little bit of a ramble, but I just sort of tacked these in place while I was talking. I think the next thing I'm going to do is some of the peripheral components, which is just like the LEDs, some potentiometers, some buttons, some switches. Craft has a nice scale to it, like done by individual hands or small group of people. Maybe it's over-referenced, but landing miners do artifacts. That you can't have nuclear power stations without a totalizing organization authority because it's beyond what a loose collection of people can do successfully. Yeah, I agree with that. Craft. I think I need to read that again. Craft has a nice scale to it. So I'll just read this out loud. Craft has a nice scale to it, like done by individual hands or small groups of people. Maybe it's over-referenced, but Landon Weiner's Do Artifacts Have Politics frames it well, calling out that you can't have nuclear power stations without a totalizing organization/authority because it's beyond what a loose collection of people... I understand what you're saying. Yeah. Like, once the systems themselves scale, you need these sort of like, or like, like only through collaboration and collectiveness. And then, like, you know, this relies on an economy of power in which certain people own the power to generate the power, to siphon the power, which builds hierarchy. And we can really only have that in like a sort of like globalized economy, I think, is if I understand what you're saying. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I guess, like, yeah, there is something to be said about, I don't know, like the boutique versus, I don't know, I don't like that word, but like, yeah, like the boutique versus the large scale versus like the masses, but also like, how do we think about that in the same conversation that we talk about populism and like democracy or something? Excuse me. All right, now I'm moving. Oh goodness, something's in my throat. Yeah, I think I said this on the last stream, but most days, I don't know, when I come here to work or if I go to my boss's studio to work, the artist that I work for, I feel like I don't really say much at all. I feel like I don't really speak much just because there's not really much to say when you're working alone in a wood shop. But then I do this stream and I'm talking for over an hour or something. All right, so now I'm sort of doing the buttons and the switches at the same time. And when I do switches, I like to do this thing where I just sort of will get a little solder in the joint under one, and then while it's still wet, I just kind of pop it down. These buttons will sort of just hold their own, and I can flip them and not have to worry about them falling out. But oh, getting my soldering iron in the microphone. But yeah, I also think that with regards to this specific series, like, I've been thinking about trying to get more into like surface mount components, which is like a whole nother thing, which might put an end to doing these, because then I would be able to utilize this service that the people who manufacture my circuit boards could put in place, which is these machines called pick and place machines, where they can take all, if they're surface mount components, just will take them and plop them out on your circuit board, put some solder paste on them, and then solder it all, and it just comes out as like one finished thing. It's pretty cool. I definitely want to try it on something first. But yeah, that'd be that in those cases, like, then the boards would just, you know, come with all the components pre-soldered to it, and I would just have to like maybe solder one or two components, like a potentiometer, like a knob or something like that, because I don't think they have those components in their library, but I don't know, I think that would be really cool. And also a new aesthetic to explore. I feel like surface mount components just are like a totally different language than through-hole components. They just feel so different. All right, now I'm going to put in my IC sockets. Actually, I'm going to solder these buttons real quick. And I'm going to trim some stuff. Yeah, I'm getting close. I'm getting close to getting these collages done, and I feel kind of funny about it because I like I've been working on this set of 5 for since like the beginning, like right at the end of last year and the beginning of this year. I mean, I've been working on other ones. I'm up to this. Once I finish this series of 5, I'll have done like 15 in the last year and a half. And I don't know. I think each one has gotten a lot better. And case in point, I like. Oh, hey Phil. Thanks for the subscription. If that is the real Phil. But yeah, I like. I'm finishing up these 5, and I'm really excited about them. And I don't know. One day I was just like really like pretty exhausted from working on them because there was 2 in particular that I just like spent like every day, and I just really pumped them out. And so I just kind of wanted to like go back and do a little bit of sketching with some of the other circuit boards that I've since made, or like ones that I've made and I haven't really used yet. I haven't found a spot for in a collage yet, because they all have different functions. And so I was sketching with them, and I was like, oh, these are really nice. And I posted them online, and I don't know, people were so receptive. It was really cool. But I'm like, oh shoot, now I gotta make them. There's no time to sit and think. There's developing a formal language. And the people want paragraphs. No, it's a good problem to have, I think. I don't know, I'm really excited. I'm excited by these. I've always envied painters because with sculpture, which is what I'm trained in, I feel like we have such a crutch of like the objects we work with and how they all have their own sort of context and history. And you know, when you look at something on a pedestal versus something hanging on a wall, like there's a different context, of course. But then also, like, if something's made of concrete, we're probably going to have a conversation about concrete, right? Like, and if something, like, you know, to reference the obvious, I hate to reference him. I think I talked about him last time too, but like Jeff Koons, like when you look at that stuff, it's like, that stuff is meant to be thought of as like never being touched by somebody before, and it's meant to like sort of exist in this realm of like high-class manufacturing and all these things. And so then we can have a conversation about that, and we can have a conversation about how it looks like nobody has touched this thing and it looks like a perfect object or something. But with painting, unless like, I don't know, I feel like when I hear people talk about painting, it's always about the world that's been built, or like the conversation that's been built. Or I just feel like when you're a painter, you have like, you don't, I don't know, I'm sure some painters, like, their paintings are about the paint itself, but I feel like the majority of the paintings and the painters that I like, the paintings that I see and the painters that I know, it's not really about that. And I don't know, I've always thought that was like crazy hard. Like I could never imagine just sort of like going from like nothing to here it is, unless I was just writing a paper or something. But with these, I feel like I'm finally starting to sort of get into that headspace a little bit more, where, you know, obviously it is about the fact that they're made of circuit boards, but it's also about like the formal qualities and the curves and the sort of expressiveness of the drawings, and you know, other like more, I guess that's also like a very classical way of thinking of painting, but it's more about like, I don't know, that sort of realm. All right, we got one of these circuits, or these, we've got one of these sockets on. I just got to get these on, put some ICs in, and then some potentiometers and some jacks, and then we're all set. How are we doing on time? Going for half an hour? That's pretty good. Like I said, this is a pretty simple circuit. And I've made more complicated envelopes, but I don't know. The more complicated ones, they rely on a very specific chip, which is great, and they work super well, but they're really expensive, and I don't know. I can't really justify that cost yet. Maybe one day I'll be able to use those for every single thing, but yeah, not yet, not during the pandemic. But yeah, I have one of those modules built on my modular unit, and it's a great circuit. It's like specialized for envelope generation. It's from a company called Electric Druid, and they're great. They have some really cool stuff on there. That's like very specific for sort of analog synth circuits like this. Alright, so my jacks are in, the potentiometers are in, I just got to solder them down. Getting close. But yeah, I kind of said it already, but I'll say it again. If you're on the Instagram Live, I'm also doing this on Twitch. And when I do it on Twitch, I also have like the schematic up. And I'm a little bit more engaged in the chat on there, just because it's a little bit easier to engage with. It kind of comes up and tells me. And I also have the Instagram Live feed, so you're not missing anything. And I have another camera that sort of comes down from overhead. I don't know, I'm still sort of exploring the Twitch platform. I think it's pretty cool for this sort of thing. Did I do that right? Yeah. All right. There we go. Whoop. There we go. Yeah, so we got some nice red lights on here. So we're going to put some power cables on there, and then, I also have to put the ICs in, but that takes 2 seconds. Got some classic TL072s, not these. TL072s are just sort of like the I don't know, maybe not standard, maybe I shouldn't say standard, but very common operational amplifier. Gotta make sure I put them in the right way. There we go. Excellent. Get some power on here. Got some cables already. Yeah, so this is actually the last board that I have to make for this series of 5, so this live stream came at a perfect time. This was the one that I kind of wanted to build next, this envelope generator. I was thinking about doing it instead of the mixer and the passive components, but I don't know. I kind of just felt like doing those passive ones. They were pretty simple. We got 2 done in like under an hour or something. But Yeah, I still have some more modules that I'm excited to explore. I feel like we're getting close to sort of the broad, swath of the simple components. Trying to think of what else we have left. We did envelopes, VCAs, touchpads. Touchpads, I think, are next. Getting into different ways of interacting. I also have I have one right here. I have a solar panel that is just literally hooked up to a 1/4-inch jack. Let's see, can I do that? Yeah. So it's just a solar panel that was gifted to me, hooked up to a 1/4-inch jack, and if I basically put a cable coming out of here and just plug it into something that takes a CV in, I can get light sensitive voltages out. And so I've been thinking about maybe doing some sort of installation like that, because I can do it both ways. I can take lights, I can do build some sort of relay circuit that turns on floodlights or something every time it gets a little small 5-volt signal, and controls the wall outlet or something, and then I can have that shining the floodlight on an array of solar panels that's hooked up to a bunch of filters or something crazy like that, and then it becomes this sort of more spacious thing, and then on top of that, if someone was to walk through, all of a sudden their engagement with the space and their presence in the space becomes known by the code, by the algorithm that is the light, now the light converted to energy, converted to circuit conversation that's happening. Oop. But yeah, we're getting there, We got one more power cable. I'm going to give it a little once over. Make sure everything is good. Mostly just want to make sure that everything has been soldered and I haven't missed anything. Sweet, yeah, that looks good. Get this out of here, bring this guy in. Actually, I'm just going to hold it. I've got my power supply. Let's get this out of here. All right, moment of truth. I need to strip these. We've got plus, ground, and minus 12 volts. Make sure nothing is touching. Don't want to short it. I did before by accident. Let's see. Excellent. So on this one, this is a good thing. This is a good sign. I know most of them, all the LEDs turn on when I get it going. But on this one, there's only one LED that turns on. This is our one indicator LED. We don't have a bunch on here. So I'm just going to put this here. I'm going to get this cup of water out of here. Yeah, cool. So I'm going to pull some cables out. Chair out of here. Yeah, so we've got it. That's a good sign. Again, I want to make sure that none of these touch. And then let's see, I might be in the right mode. cool. So I think you can see that. Let's see if I can get it on both displays. So what's happening there is I'm pressing this button. Let's see, can I get it? Yeah. So I'm pressing this button and this light is lighting up. And this is with the attack and the decay totally to one side. So it's, you know, no attack, no decay, just instant on, off, on, off. Now if I turn the attack all the way up, when I hold it, it like fades in, you see that? Like, so I'm holding it now, and it takes a second to sort of fade in and reach the full like power. And that is like the steep attack that I drew before, that sort of like gradual increase. And then, you know, the release is still all the way down. So as soon as it gets up, as soon as I let go, it's gone. But then if I turn the release all the way down, fade in and fade out. You see that? And there's two of them too, so I can do that on this one as well, if it's in the right mode. Yeah, so fade in and out. Fade in and fade out. And so I can now, you can do some demonstration with that. I'm going to take these off. I don't really need these anymore. So now I'm going to take, for right now I'm just going to press the button, but I'm going to take that into a filter. That's going to have a triangle wave in it. And then I'm going to just plug that into my amplifier. Yeah, so that's just the regular filter. You can hear it like... Cool, so there's that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the output, which is... envelope out is this one. So this is envelope out. So now I'm going to turn the volume on again, and then I'm going to press the button, and it's going to sort of automate that process for us. Now I can automate that by putting a gated signal in to the other side. So now we can see, I'm trying to get it on both things. So you can see now that light is kind of automated. It's kind of going on its own, and it's going based on that clock thing. So now I'm just gonna turn that on. Yeah, so that thing, that's just, I kind of switched it to the CV of the oscillator, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch it to a Vactral, which I'm going to use instead of instead of a VCA. What is this? What is this? What's going on? Attack, envelope, yeah. What's going on? There we go. So I'm going to feed that into this Vactral. And this Vactral is just going to work as like a gate, essentially, and I'm going to stick that signal in from the filter, and that's going to, actually I'm going to put it in this one. So now what it's going to do is every time this is going on, it's actually just going to be controlling the volume of the filter and the oscillator. So let's... So that's it, gate all the way up. I'm going to soften it a little bit. I'm going to slow it down. Soften a little bit more. This. So I mean, there's something there. I'm gonna switch that over to a VCA. Put it through an attenuator just to kind of be able to control the signal, how much is coming out a little bit more. I'm going to slowly turn this up. Seems to be acting pretty weird. Maybe we'll just go. Right, I think we're going to go directly from oscillator. want to use the other envelope. There you go, 2 envelopes, attack release envelopes, AR envelopes, pretty simple, pretty standard, and yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with them. I really love like how easy it is to start automating the sort of signals that you're getting out of them just through, passive attenuators like we saw last time are literally just potentiometers in line with a signal. And yeah, I could spend hours on this thing, but I think we're gonna end it there. I think next time we're either gonna do touch gates or maybe a noise module or something. I don't have a standalone noise module. I only have a noise module that's integrated with a sample and hold, but maybe we could do something with that. Sample and holds are also really, really cool. I also have a Vactrol circuit that we can play around with, which is this green one that I was playing with just now. I have another one that's a standalone, but I have a feeling touchpads will be the one for next time. I have this under here somewhere. I have this new touchpad module that I made. This is my new standalone one that maybe we'll work on next time. It's kind of this like tentacle stem thing. There it is. Yeah, so maybe we'll make this one next time. This is a first draft version, so it's got a little weird LED issue that I'm trying to figure out, but yeah, we'll see. Maybe we'll do touchpads, maybe we'll do something else. I keep getting more requests to just do a sort of patch from scratch on the modular unit, so maybe that's in store. It's still a work in progress, so it's got some bugs, but I don't know, we'll see. We'll see, who knows. Anyway. I think we're going to call it there. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night.